Thank you for joining us at the Evolution of Medicine Summit. A warm welcome. We wanted to make a specific thank you to our sponsors that have made this event possible. Energetics, an innovative natural remedy and supplement company, is committed to revitalizing medicine, and Cyrex Labs, a clinical immunology laboratory specializing in functional immunology and autoimmunity. Most of all, thank you for listening. If you'd like to share this with your colleagues and friends on Facebook if you enjoy the content, and if you have questions, you can ask us on Twitter with the hashtag EvoMed. Finally, if you really want to play your part in accelerating the evolution of medicine, ask your doctor if the Evolution of Medicine Summit might be right for them. Thank you and enjoy. Hello and welcome back to the Evolution of Medicine Summit. Thank you so much for listening this whole week, and we have a special treat to finish the summit. It is the 15th of September, and today we have in the studio with us Joe Cross. Joe, it's so great to have you here on the Evolution of Medicine Summit.
Thanks for having me, James. It's a pleasure to be here, mate.
Awesome. So we've spoken all week. We've had content for doctors and for patients, but I've called this segment the Great Health Outsourcing Experiment because I heard you refer to your story as health outsourcing, and I think that's probably a great place to start. So I know over 20 million people have seen your film, Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead. I know this Thursday you have the Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead 2 coming out. But just as we get into it now, what I'd love to get, for those people who aren't familiar with your work, just to share a little bit about your story and your interaction with the medical system.
Sure. Well, my story when it comes to Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead started in 2007 when I picked up a camera and followed my journey from actually being fat, sick and nearly dead to still being alive today. I'm not going to run on the set of Baywatch anytime soon, but at least I don't take any medication and I feel great and I'm still very much alive. The reason I put a camera on myself is because for the previous 8 years, from when I effectively was in my early 30s to when I hit 40 years of age, I had been outsourcing my health to somebody else. I've been giving over total control of my whole health care, my happiness, if you like, probably the most important thing that I actually had in my life, my overall wellness, to outside people. I was basically taking no responsibility for being a part of the team, so to speak, to keep Joe healthy. And I got to a point where, after debilitating autoimmune disease called chronic urticaria and being on medication for 8 long years, trying many things, I decided that I needed to make a big change and be a participant in my rejuvenation and possibility. I mean, I heard one statistic, James, that really got me thinking, and that was that 70% of all disease is caused by lifestyle choices. So that meant, for me, that I had a 70% chance that this illness that I had, this debilitating illness that made my body swell up, my skin break out into huge red blotches, not being able to use my joints because the histamine would flow into my knees or my hips or my elbows or my knuckles, and it was just an incredibly painful existence, and I had to take large doses of prednisone. I thought, hey, hang on a second, there's a 70% chance that I'm doing this to myself and a 30% chance that it's just bad luck. Yeah. So what I needed to do was to devise a plan, find out a way that I could find out, am I in the unlucky crowd or I am in the crazy, stupid, idiotic crowd where I am causing this misery, causing this pain to myself. And so I set about looking at what are these lifestyle choices, what are the ones that are actually really affecting us. And there's a bunch of them, but the big 3 were exercise, diet, and do you smoke? And of course, I looked at all those 3 and I was failing miserably at all of them, so I needed to address them. And the big one for me was cutting out smoking. I did that pretty easily. It was hard, but that was one that was like, okay, this is not very smart. Yeah. The diet one was hardest, and so I came up with a plan to juice myself to health, and that's what we see in the movie Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead. And anyone can watch that on Netflix or on any sort of platform that's out there now in the media world. It's kind of everywhere. And then the third thing I did was to start working out and moving and getting the body to move. Not crazy, but just getting movement into my life. And the results were nothing short of amazing. It was 5 months and I was off all medication. I lost 100 pounds. I felt amazing. And so from that, I've now sort of started a company, and I make movies. I've got a new movie coming out, and that's basically the background to my story.
Yeah. So I know that you also have, you're part of a medical family as well. So what was it like having the conversations with the family members that were in medicine, and what was it they that encouraged you to start the juicing strategy, or was it self-driven?
No. What actually happened is that my parents were very worried about my condition because it was getting worse and I needed more medication, and it was just incredibly debilitating. And it was really taking an emotional toll because you didn't know whether you were going to wake up with a good day or a bad day. And you could plan for things. And, when you have a disease of touch where touching things causes these welts, it really does slow down your participation in life. And so they were quite worried about me. And so they were prepared to back or support me in anything I decided to do. And, I loved my burgers, my pizzas, my takeaway food, my chocolate. I was I guess probably if you put it down to one thing, it was sugar that I was really, I had this massive connection with. And I had zero connection with plants.
Okay.
So I had a very unhealthy relationship with one food group, being sugar, and also a very unhealthy relationship with plants because there was no relationship.
Yeah.
So once I explained it to my mum and dad and brother and sister and loved ones that this is the reason why I am going about the way I'm going about is that primarily there are two broken relationships in my life, the relationship with plants and the relationship with myself. Because clearly I wasn't loving myself enough if I was treating my body this way and if I was behaving in that manner of just completely polluting my system with junk food all the time and not exercising and smoking and drinking and God knows what else. So to me, they were very supportive. And, a lot of people thought I was pretty crazy to go out there and do 60 days of just drinking juice. And to be perfectly honest, I can understand that. You don't have to do it that way. I'm an extreme personality. I wanted to make a statement. I wanted to really get some quick results. So I wanted to fight the fire with fire. But look, I'm not sure. We'll never know. But I think, you can certainly have similar results by switching just to a plant-based diet of eating fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, and seeds. It might take a little longer. But the reality is that they were quite supportive. And obviously, when the results started coming in.
How long did that take? How long did you realize that this was going to work?
Well, the first 2 weeks it got worse.
Okay.
Because my body was in shock.
Yeah. And
so the more you're in shock, the more your body's going to be inflamed.
Okay. And
so it was screaming out that you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy. And I've got to admit, there was the periods there when I was thinking, is this just insanity what I'm doing?
Yeah.
But after about 3 weeks, the symptoms started to really drop off in a big way. And then as we got into week 5, 7, 8, and the medication was able to be lowered, I went from 30 milligrams a day down to 2.5 milligrams a day in 2 months.
Wow.
But then it took another 3 months to be off those 2.5 milligrams, going down very slowly. So it took 5 months in total to be completely medication-free.
Wow.
60 days of juice plus 90 days of juicing and eating plants.
Wow. And so, because up until then, obviously you've been taking sort of topical drugs for, you said, the hives.
I was taking drugs that were just basically knocking out the symptoms. Like, what was happening is my body would swell, and so we'd take prednisone to bombard the whole system so that it wouldn't swell anymore.
Yeah.
But it wasn't getting to the root cause.
Okay. And how did you sort of put 2 and 2 together that dealing with the internal stuff was going to help with the external? Because that's not an easy jump for most people. They think it's a problem on the skin.
So because I'd run out of options, like when you're forced into a corner and you've got nowhere else to go, it was sort of like, can I fix this without changing my diet? Can I fix this while I'm still smoking cigarettes? Can I fix this while I'm still drinking beer?
Yeah.
And plenty of it. No, that hasn't been working.
Yeah.
And so, there's a part of me that deep down knew that I needed to make these changes. And throughout my 30s and my late 30s, I was procrastinating a lot. I'd say, I've just got to do this deal. I've just got to do that. after I do this job, I'll have time. I'll have time. So it really was a procrastination. There was something about getting to 40, which is all of a sudden, wow, I'm at 40. I've got to do something about this.
Yeah.
That crystallized all of the procrastinating and all of the really how stupid I'd been, because I'd been pretty crazy, just, throwing into the wind here. I mean, a lot of people think that it's about weight loss is the most important thing in their life. So how do you look? Like, can you be thin and look good?
Yeah.
And I understand that, but the reality for me is that I used to think that I'll lose the weight later in life and then I'll be good. I wasn't realizing that the damage I was doing by, forget the weight, it was what I was doing to my cholesterol, my laying down plaque on my arteries, what that high blood pressure was doing, the at risk of being pre-diabetic and possibly becoming a diabetic. And so there was this real disconnect about actual health, and it was more about appearance.
Yeah.
And so that all crystallized when I became 40, or when I hit 40. And so that's when, the fear and the wow, possibly half my life's over if I keep going at this route, and maybe even 2/3.
Yeah.
So I've got to do something about this.
Yeah. So what made you decide to put it all on camera? Because I know a lot of people sort of are going through this process themselves. Maybe they're listening to this summit because they're sick and they want to try and find a source. Like, what was it about the camera that made it fit for you?
Well, because the logic of what I was going to do, which was go back to our roots and, really try and just consume plant food. And, when you think about juicing, it's actually drinking the water that's filtered through plants, because juicing really is just taking all that water that's been harnessed in plants and pulling it out. And not only do you pull the water out, you pull out all these incredible nutrients from the plant with it.
Yep.
So that made sense to me. And once I started to explain the logic behind my madness, friends started saying, if this works, this could be big. I mean, maybe you should put a camera on yourself, because you can talk, so maybe that would be something interesting.
And I started that inclination before.
No, well, I mean, when it was first mentioned, I thought crazy, but then a couple of other people mentioned, and then one particular mate of mine pushed me over the edge and said, you really should do this because you're the least likely guy to do this.
Yeah. And
so that's going to help others. And then also I started, not only from the helping others point of view, but I also thought that would help me in that I've made a commitment. So by putting that camera on myself, it really was that I've now got to deliver.
Yeah.
And it was a way to stay true to the original commitment, because many of us make commitments and, fail. And I've done that plenty of times.
Yeah, I see that for myself as well. One of the things that we've had, in this summit is we've had women's medicine and men's medicine. Women tend to do a better job of looking after themselves, and men, it's almost like you said, like you have to wait until there's literally no other options until you do it. And Gio Espinosa, who was the doctor who spoke on the evolution of men's health, he felt like what we actually need to do is to look for strategies to engage men and seeing when will they actually do it. And one of his ideas was to actually sort of, even if you haven't got a debilitating disease, to sort of trick yourself into thinking that you have, because inspiring proactive action was actually what needed to happen. What advice would you have for people who are listening today, especially men who have that procrastination and haven't taken it seriously?
Well, I think that there's the stick and the carrot, right?
Yeah.
And we all react differently. There's no one sort of solution that fits all. Some people will respond really well to the stick. Yeah. Others respond really well to the carrot. In other words, I've got the eye on the prize and I'm gonna achieve it. So you've got to work out which one are you and what works best for you. If you sort of go back, I mean, I'm a big user of time machines, James.
Okay.
I mean, I've got my own time machine.
All right.
And time machines are very powerful, because time machines enable you to go back. If you really sit in a quiet space and think about what life was like when you were 15 or 18 or 21 or 22 and you were playing, I used to play football, and you think about how much fun you had running around for an hour and a half, going for jogs or working out in the gym, being able to get down and drop and do 20 push-ups, and just how good you felt, like you could run through brick walls.
Yeah.
And trying to now say, well, that feeling is possible again. Just because you're in your 40s or in your 50s or in your 60s doesn't mean you can't get fit, that you can't get movement, that you can't, get stretching. You can't do those things. I mean, you can do it.
Yeah.
And so I think that using that time machine to sort of go back in time and see how you felt, but also to go forward and say, hey, if I don't do anything about this, what's my life going to be like in 10 years' time if I stay doing what I'm doing now, which is nothing?
Yeah.
Maybe I won't be here. Maybe, I'll need a hip replacement. Maybe all these problems. And then that to me is where the fear comes in and works really well with me.
Yeah.
That I start thinking, like I haven't had a drink in nearly 8 years. It's coming up to nearly 8 years, right? Nearly 7 years, I should say. And, the number of times that I've missed having a drink is maybe I can count on one hand.
Okay.
And the fact that I feel the way I feel today, the fact that I don't miss it at all. And here was something that I thought was so important in my life, that was so big in what I used to do. But the reality is it's not that important at all to me.
Yeah.
So I think there's these ways to shift our mindset. And it does start with the mind. And I'm someone I'm 48 today. I'm not as fit as I'd like to be, but I'm going to be fitter. And I have this vision of being really, really fit in my 50s. I want to be fitter in my 50s than I was in my 40s. And I'm excited about that. And that's something that I'm going to really work hard at, because I think that as we get older, we've got this great opportunity in the world today where there's so much technology that can assist us.
Yeah.
And there's so much information and there's so much support out there that, it's a real wasted opportunity not using this body we've got that we only get one crack at to really do the best we can with it.
Absolutely. And, you've spoken there really about your own self-drive to make this progress and do it. But I know that the topic of the second film is really all about community and how can we help more and more other people to do it, because it seems like, all the research is showing that, people, when they have the right support, are more able to take this journey. So what was it that made you want to do a second film? And was it an intention to focus on community, or was that just sort of how it came out when you started filming?
Well, what happened with the new movie was I really wasn't going to do another film. But because 20 million people saw the first one, it sort of felt like, well, now we've got this audience that wants more content. There's almost an obligation to go out there and do it.
Yeah.
So what I started to focus on is one thing dropping the weight, is one thing getting off the pills, but how do you stay healthy? Yeah. How do you keep the weight down? How do you stay off the meds? And so I started to look at what have I been doing that's working?
Yeah.
What are others doing that's not? And through discovery, we found that community is so important, this support group. And that's what we have tried to highlight, as well as just simple ways and tips on how to stay on track.
So yeah, we've seen certainly that they say obesity is contagious. It's more important like who your friends are and so forth like that. So if you're in a position where you feel like your community is not that supportive, how do you go about finding a community that is, so that you can achieve these goals? Because I know a lot of people that sort of feel like they don't have the support around them. I've seen it with my family and wife's family. What do you think about that?
So the first thing I would say is that for someone out there listening to the show and is eating poorly, isn't exercising, sleeps bad, feels helpless and feels lost, don't worry, you're not alone. There's literally millions of people just like you. So the question is, how do you go from that to being somebody that is optimistic about life, that's proud of the way they live, that eats well, that exercises regularly, that's happy? And although it might seem like a mammoth gap between those two people, actually it's a bunch of little small steps to actually get there. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be one thing you do that you do tomorrow and is going to catapult you there the next day. It's going to be lots of little small steps. And part of those small steps are going to be discovering and finding and asking and seeking like-minded people that are on the same path. Yeah. So you can do it online, you can do it in your church. If there's no one in your family that doesn't want to support you, that's okay. Don't criticize them. Just in private, seek out and find others. At the rebootwithjoe.com community, there's a couple of 100,000 people that are there that have all had this journey. Either they're on it, or they're trying to, or they've been successful. And there's lots of people out there that are willing to help for free. So to me, it's like making little changes. And what are those little changes in our life? They are tomorrow I'm going to try and have more plants. Tomorrow I'm going to try and get off the bus stop maybe I'm going to get off the stop 2 stops earlier than where I normally get off, and I'm going to walk the rest. I'm going to catch an earlier bus. I'm just going to do little things that I start feeling good about myself. This is not about changing dramatically all in one day. It's about building up to it. And it takes time, but believe me, it's worth it.
Yeah, that's so great. So your story is not a part of medicine. You know, if you look at medicine and take a step back, this is not it. But this summit is the evolution of medicine. And I think what we're seeing is that for those kind of chronic diseases like you had, there was no medicine that could fix you. And now you're off all your medicine and now you're healthy. So what sort of implications do you think that your story has for the evolution of medicine?
So I think we are our own best doctors. I don't think there's a better doctor in the room for you, James, than you, and there's not a better doctor for me than me.
Yeah.
I think that once we start to understand this connectivity, that the food that we consume, that the air that we breathe and the water that we drink, those 3 things are what keeps us alive. They are 3 things that we need to put in our body. Some would say every day. Well, I would argue that maybe you don't need to put food in every day, but let's just for the sake of it say that for every day we've got to make these decisions. And we are putting in fuel, we're putting in information, we're putting in love, we're putting in nourishment, we're putting in all of these things when we take those 3 things into our body. And so the choices we make really will lay the foundation as to how our health is. So that's one step. The next step is to realise that we are built to move. We're not built to be sedentary. We have to move, whether it's 10, 15 minutes a day, standing up when phone calls come in, whatever it is, we have to move. And I think that once we start becoming active participants from that point of view, we are becoming our own doctor. We are becoming a part of this evolutionary of the way that medicine and the world is going. And then we can leave really the tricky stuff, you know, like are you low on iron? Do you need more testosterone? Whatever it is in your system that needs to work, let's leave that to the experts. Let's not try and get involved there. Let's go and get our regular checkups and find a doctor that you respect. Find a doctor that you admire. Find a doctor that inspires you, because they're out there. There's many, many great people. So, you know, this relationship with our plants and the relationship with ourselves, I put those down, those 2 things. If you show me a healthy person, and I'll show you a person that's got a great relationship with plants and a great relationship with themselves.
That's great. You know, you mentioned a key word there, which is inspire, because one of the things that we've spoken about, I mean, there's probably fewer doctors listening to this than on the other parts of the summit, because this is really focused on patients. But if you're a doctor listening to this or a medical professional, what I just heard you saying is that what's most important in the future of chronic disease management is inspiring patients to actually want to be healthy. If you can provide that act of inspiration, then you're providing a lifetime of value rather than a pill which may work for a certain amount of time, but it's not really getting to the cause.
If you're a doctor listening to this right now, here's one tip I'd say to a doctor. When you're telling your patients about trying to eat a healthier diet, actually try and bring it back to yourself. Say that you try as well and that it's not easy. Tell them that you struggle, you're the doctor, and that you find it hard. But here are a couple of tips that you do, and this is what you do, and this is how you do it, because that'll humanize you. I think a lot of people go to their doctor and they put their doctor up on the pedestal. They don't think of them as human. They think they've got all the answers, and they think that everything they say is correct. I think that humanizing it makes it more relatable, and then people will realize, hey, you know what? It's actually not such a bad thing if I do fall over, because I'll just pick myself up. One of the biggest issues that I'm dealing with, James, out there in the whole world is this relationship that people have with food where they say, is it good for me or bad for me? And I think this is a real problem, that very simple idea of putting food into a moral judgment. Good for me or bad for me. Food is not good or bad for you. Some foods are more nutritious than others. Some have less nutrition. The ones that have less nutrition sometimes taste really good. Might be chocolate ice cream, which I absolutely love. But I don't have it all the time. I have it less. And when I do have it, it's a treat and I enjoy it, and I don't think about it being bad for me. I think about it as what a treat. The foods that are more healthy for me, that have more nutrition, They are the foods that I try to have more of because I'm trying to get that information into the body. And so as soon as we can break that nexus, because I mean, if you have chocolate ice cream and you think it's bad for you, when you have it, you're going to feel guilty, you're going to feel bad, you're going to have more. It becomes this whole catch-22 and a cycle where you're just going to descend.
Yeah.
So the idea of good and bad, let's leave that out of the food discussion. Let's put it more as some foods are more nutritious. Let's try and have more of those.
Yeah.
And if the more of those we have, then actually the more right and the more freedom we have to have the ones that are least nutritious.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And being hard on yourself never helps, and probably sends you further down that spiral.
We are our own worst judges. Most people get up in the morning, they look in the mirror, and the conversation goes something like this. Look at you, you ugly, fat, old person. Now, what a way to start your day.
Yeah.
Just think about that little pep talk.
Yeah.
Getting up, and the first thing you do when you look in the mirror is start criticising yourself.
Yeah.
So how about stick some little post-its on the mirror. You are beautiful. You are great. You're going to have a wonderful day. You're going to go out there and eat as many plants as you can. You're going to earn the right to have that hot dog or donut or whatever it is you want to have on the weekend at the ball game or wherever it is you're going.
Yeah.
You're going to earn the right to have that glass of wine. You're going to earn it.
Yeah.
And you're going to earn it by having lots of nutritious plants. You're going to earn it by getting some regular exercise in. You're going to earn it by sleeping well. You're going to earn it by being happy to people. And this can really make a big change to one's life just by having those little affirmations every morning in front of the mirror saying you're a good person. You are beautiful. You are on your path. This is going to be a better day. And I think those things can go a long, long way. And that's not too difficult to do. I'm not asking people to go out and do 100 push-ups. That's just the way we think.
Yeah, absolutely. So interesting, and I really appreciate you sharing that. I know you travel a lot now, so you're going around the world and you're meeting people who have watched the movie and you're meeting people who are on this journey, part of the community, either just getting started or, pros at it. Are there things that you've learned through sort of being empathetic with other people's journey that you didn't learn on your journey that you think are important for other people to know?
Oh yeah, like for example, what I just talked about is something that I used to think as food is good or bad, and that's just one thing. I think that the little steps, I've learned that it's about little steps. I've learned how important being connected is and sharing. I've learned about these conversations with ourselves, how important they are to be optimistic and not negative. So everything I've talked about, I've learned all of this on the road. I mean, I think that I'm not much of a scholar. I don't go to college, I don't go to university, I don't read books. Most of what I pick up is what I feel or hear or listen from the tens of thousands of people that I meet, touch and talk to. And, I think that the one thing I would say is that reporting from the front lines is that I'm quite optimistic about the future. A lot of people are now aware of what they're putting into their body. They are aware that they've got to make changes. They're seeking legitimate ways of doing it. And so I think that there is this tsunami of change that is coming. And like we've talked about this before, that there is the supply and the demand issue. And at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, capitalism is actually working in this world. Whether it's working, that's not the question. Capitalism is the model that we work by or live by.
Yep. And
so supply and demand works. If more people can buy more plant food or ask for more plant food, if they demand it, the supply is coming. And there are restaurants, there are juice bars, there are places all over America, all over Europe, all over Australia, all over Asia now that are catering to that demand. And I'm seeing that really start to take off. So I think that the opportunities for people from a work point of view are great, and the opportunities for people from a convenience point of view of getting healthier food are great. I think the tsunami of change is, it's coming and it's exciting, and it's just great to be at the forefront watching the eyes light up and people getting this and realizing that the ball is in their court to be a participant as a patient and not just be sitting back and outsourcing their health and being reactionary.
Yeah, it's so interesting you mentioned that about capitalism, because when we were on HuffPost Live a couple of weeks ago, just said that I feel like capitalism is actually a really good situation for this revolution to happen, because every time you make a choice of ordering a green juice or ordering more vegetables or otherwise, like when I first moved to America, I lived in rural Georgia. And in rural Georgia, the organic food section was almost non-existent. And then I went back 9 years later. I lived there for a couple of years. I went back recently and I saw the organic food section is massive and the fresh food section is massive, because that demand has happened. You've seen with gluten-free as well. Every time you make a purchase, you're really sending out price signals and demand signals to the market, and you don't have to, walking around New York and see how many juice bars there are and so forth. So, are there other areas that your spending habits have changed now that you understand that?
Well, I think when it comes down to the food choices, I mean, don't get me wrong, I mean, I still enjoy, a steak every now and then, but for me, it really is every now and then. It might be once every 6 weeks. And when I have it, I enjoy it. But like tonight, I'm in New York tonight, and I've already made a decision about dinner tonight. I'm going to a vegan restaurant, because a friend of mine who wants to have dinner, she wants to go to a vegan restaurant. I'm excited about it. I mean, I've never been there before. And so I'm participating. I mean, I'm going to go along tonight. I don't know what it's going to cost, $30, $40, whatever it's going to cost. I'm going to be putting that money into the economy, and that restaurant's going to have 2 seats filled up. And that's positive, because that's sending a message to the owner, hey, if I keep serving this vegan food, people are going to come. Yeah. And so I haven't eaten McDonald's or Burger King or KFC or anything like that in 7 years. Yeah. I have not spent a single cent at those types of quick service restaurants. Now, that doesn't mean they're bad or they're negative, because, I understand that some people enjoy that and they can go once or twice a month or whatever. Fantastic. But I haven't spent any money there. Not because I haven't wanted to. Not because I've wanted to. I actually haven't wanted to. Yeah. I genuinely don't want to eat that food. Yeah. So I think that those choices that we make, they're playing out, and we're seeing it. And this is exciting. Yeah. I mean, it still doesn't mean that anyone can go into the business of serving healthy food and going to make money, because you've got to adhere to all other business principles. Yeah. But the reality is, it's exciting to see this awareness, and I'm seeing it particularly in kids. I'm seeing it in young teenagers. They're really starting to be aware of this, and they don't want to be like mum and dad. I actually saw a research study the other day that said millennials aren't going to McDonald's, which was really exciting and interesting, because I know growing up, that was like the place that you went if you weren't old enough to go to a bar. Everyone would just go to McDonald's and sit and eat there, and that was like a congregation point. And it is exciting to see what you're saying now. Well, when I grew up, it was the first time that food became entertainment. Food and entertainment were connected. You'd go to this restaurant and there was a clown. The Ronald McDonald clown was there, and it was never unheard of to go to a restaurant. So, I'm talking about the early 70s now. Okay. In Australia, I mean, you would go there and there'd be a clown and there'd be a playground. So you could go and have your shake, your fries, your burger, and play in the playground. I mean, it was connected as entertainment. So I think that maybe that idea of food as being entertainment has been surpassed by lots of other entertainment today. Maybe that's a reason. I don't know. But I think that the younger kids today are far more aware that this food that they're putting in is not real food. It's not alive. It doesn't have the information, the nutrients that their cells require and demand to lead a happy, healthier, longer life. I think that encapsulates it completely. Well, look, throughout this summit, Joe, we've heard from doctors. Some of the stuff that you've said here has been a direct reflection of someone like David Katz, who's a preventative medicine guru. He spoke about exercise and smoking and diet, which are the 3 things you spoke about here. So we don't need to rehash this. But what I am interested in spending the rest of the interview talking about is, like, how do we make this scale? Like, how can we actually really have this happen? And one of the things I want to ask you is that when people make these changes and they go through it, and you've been all around the world, you've met all kinds of people, what I would love to see is that those people who have made these changes to go out and start helping other people to make those changes too, because we see so many people becoming health coaches or otherwise, and really starting to, want to develop their career around something they love. So do you have any advice for people who are out there who are healthy, that want to sort of take this forward? What can they do to help to develop this in their community? So I think the thing we've got to be careful about is preaching too much. I mean, Nobody likes a know-all.
Yeah.
Nobody likes someone who gets on their soapbox and tells people what to do.
Yeah.
So I think if you are someone who wants to share the knowledge, just be very conscious about how you're sharing it.
Okay.
Don't force it on people like you're running around trying to get people to join your religion.
Okay.
You know? Well, I think it's about leading by example. I think it's about by doing, not telling. I think it's by showing. I think that if you're someone who leads this life and you make the choices to be healthy, if you're doing it and doing it well and you're doing it in public, you'll be surprised at how many people will ask you about this. And it's far better to have an audience that's asking questions than an audience that's not.
Yeah.
So to me, it's very much about leading by example, not telling people what to do. Let's face it, James, people are sick and tired of being told what to do.
Yeah.
They don't want to be told what to do. And as soon as you start telling them what to do, even if it's a great message, they're going to turn off.
Yeah.
So to me, very much about leading by example. It's when people ask the question, say to them or share with them that this is about small little changes and that you can achieve it. Be inspirational.
Yeah.
But listen, don't just talk. You know, we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should all listen twice as much as we talk. So listen to what the people are asking and try and put yourself on their level of saying, you know, okay, I hear what you're going through. Maybe have you tried this? Maybe have you tried that? Make it a conversation, not a lecture.
That's a great plan. I know there's a lot of people out there that are pumped up about, helping other people. And I certainly can relate with that. You know, it's almost like we've been told so much to do what sort of food to eat. It's almost like people tune out from that information because it's been so ubiquitous and it's also been so contradictory in what we've been told. So,
you know, there's a lot of people out there who don't know how to make a salad. Now, I meet people who've got no idea how to make a salad. Now, you might think that's kind of crazy because when I speak to health experts, they kind of think that, how is that possible? But a lot of people don't know. And what happens is they're frightened of actually asking because they don't want to appear like that they're inadequate.
yeah.
So I think that what also a good coach or a good person who wants to spread the word who's been asked really can sometimes try and pick up on, try and be intuitive to, via asking questions about the salads they make and what do they do, and even if you go to a store and ask what sort of vegetables is this, what's that fruit, if they find that they can't answer those questions, then don't berate them. Start again, start at the bottom and say, look, how about I show you how to make a really good salad? Because you just need these 6 things. You do this, you wash it this way, you put that in there, you put that in there, and then we need, and then people go, wow, I've just been shown what to do.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that people take for granted that people know, and people are embarrassed to put their hand up and say, I don't know what that is. I don't know what arugula is. I don't know what kale is. What do I do with kale?
Yeah.
What does that mean? And so they switch out because people they're sort of brushing over. So it really depends who your audience is, but it's about, in my humble opinion, it's about involving a conversation, not a lecture. That's the best tip. Listen to what the person's asking.
That's great. Yeah, there's probably people who are listening to this who find themselves in sort of a food desert as well. You know, Mark Hyman's talked about that a lot, where he goes to certain places in the country where I think there's like a ratio which talks about the number of fast food places to the number of places where you can buy groceries. I mean, obviously it's hard to do juicing or anything vegetable related if it's hard to do that. You know, we do see some exciting signs of some new fast food outlets that are coming that are...
Sure, but here's what I'd say about those food deserts. This is what I'd say, and I've seen this in action, is that what it takes one person to go out and find 19 other families that want to participate in getting a farmer, because these food deserts generally are in areas where there is farming going on.
It's so funny, isn't it?
Okay? Generally they are. Not all, but generally they are.
Yeah.
So it's about, connecting with CSAs and actually realising that the idea of dealing with a farmer direct is a lot cheaper than dealing with a supermarket to get your produce. So if you can get 19 other families to be involved, and you can go and find a couple of farmers that are in the area, even if it's like a 70-mile or a 100-mile drive, I tell you what, for 2 or 3 trips a month, you will get a farmer to do that for 20 families. There's a business there for them.
Yeah.
And even if you meet halfway, and even if it's just one family member or one family participating, it's only one trip every 20 weeks.
Yeah.
If they share it. So I think that there are ways to do this. At the end of the day, it's about how much do you want it.
Yeah. Absolutely, and with the internet and the technology now, there's ways to connect with other people in the community that might want to participate. Is that
absolutely? I mean, the thing that I'm fascinated about is that you've got like 50,000 or so health coaches or people in this field that are out there online in America today that have got some accreditation.
Yeah,
there's a lot of unused inventory of talent out there.
Yeah,
that will help people that haven't got the means to pay. I mean, I know these people. They'll give a couple of hours a week free to these people.
Yeah.
So it's not the end of the world if you don't have money. If you haven't, you try and communicate and say, look, I'd love a couple of hours free. Could you help me out on this? These people are good people. They will help. So it's not all about money all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The one other thing that's come up a lot in the Evolution of Medicine Summit is this sort of evolution towards technology, sort of wearable devices and those kind of things. Do you think, had you had some sort of device on your wrist that was telling you, how good the food was for you, do you think that would have changed your life at that point? Do you think that men particularly are going to have a better run of it in the future where you can actually get like real-time feedback on what the food that you're putting in your mouth is doing to your underlying function?
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody. I know it would be good for me. I mean, I'd love to have a little chip on the back of my tooth that tells me, as the day's going by, about what my percentage of processed food versus animal product versus plant food is.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be great for me, but maybe not for the next bloke. So I think it's a personal choice. I think that there is a point where it can become too extreme and we become too obsessed with the numbers. Life is about having fun. We've existed on this planet for, depending who you talk to, 5 million years, and we've done pretty well. I mean, we are the most successful species on the planet.
Yeah.
We've done very well. In the last 70 years, we've introduced this new category of food. Before that, it was just plants and animals. We've introduced this new category, which is man-made food. This food made by people in white coats. And my saying is, if you consume a lot of food made by people in white coats, you end up seeing people in white coats. And it's this sort of circle of the white coat brigade.
Yeah.
So it's not rocket science. It's, okay, I love processed food like the next person. I mean, I love bread.
Yeah.
I love ice cream. I've just got to be very careful because of my personality, just to not have it as much as I would like it. And so there is a constant dance at play with me. I'm always dancing this fine line between happiness of having just a little bit and depression of having too much. And so I have to balance that, and that's a personal thing. Now, if technology can help me with that, great.
Yeah.
But it's not the be-all and end-all. At the end of the day, we're not here for a long time, we're here for a good time. And I feel that we need to make sure that we don't become too obsessive about these things in our life. Otherwise, life will pass us by and we'll just miss it.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, I really appreciate all of the insight that you shared today. I think for anyone listening who's at any point in this journey, whether they're sick now, whether they're getting healthy, whether they've got healthy, and whether they want to help other people, you've just been a great source of inspiration for people. When we first met and we were, talking about maybe doing something like this together, it was amazing. The timing. My event was finishing on the 15th of September today, and on Thursday you have your second film coming out. Do you want to just give a...
Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead 2. It's going to be in a theatre. I think it's in 650 theatres across America. You can go to fatsickandnearlydead.com and you can click on the Fathom events. This is a one-night only event. I'm going to show the movie, and I'm going to show a half an hour of a special featurette, which is only going to be seen at the cinema this night. And then we're going to have to wait until November 18 which is going to be 2 months after that date for the release on iTunes and on Warner Brothers Home Video on Demand, etc.
Okay, so let's, if we put all of this together, surely there's an opportunity right now for people who are listening to say, hey, if I want to make a difference in my community, if I want to help out some other people, rather than telling them what to do, why don't I just go and invite a few friends and come to Joe's movie? I mean, do you think there could be some value in getting that kind of content together?
Yeah, look, 600 people have seen the movie, so it's only been seen by a very small group, James.
Okay.
And these 600 people, the overall consensus is that they're rating this film better than the first one, and that's a surprise to me because the first one did really well. So I think we're onto something in this new movie. It really is giving people a hope. It's inspiring people to lead healthier, happier, longer lives, and it's working. And so, I mean, I'm thrilled and excited to see what the response is going to be like over the coming months as this film starts to roll out in the US and around the world.
That's so exciting. Well, Joe, thanks so much. It's been an inspirational call to action today, and we really appreciate you having you on the summit. I really feel like this kind of passion and excitement is a part of the evolution of medicine. That's why we had to have you here, and we look forward to the success of the film. And I hope that many, many more people are inspired to go on this journey for themselves and to help other people. And I think I share your optimism that with the system that we have now, plus everything that's going on, I think we can get to a point where we have a sustainable health system, and we can keep healthy and contribute to society and take mankind forward. I really applaud your role in doing that. Lots of respect for that, and good luck with the film and everything else in your career.
Thanks, James. It's been great to be on the show, and everyone out there, juice on.
Juice on. This has been the Evolution of Medicine Summit. This is the last live segment today. You can also get some of the top talks from the rest of the week. It's been great being with you. If you have other questions, please tweet with the EvoMed hashtag, and you can have your questions answered. We'll be following that. This has been the Evolution of Medicine Summit, and we'll see you next time.